Ooh, let's talk about fainting, because I have a lot of experience with fainting. So you want to work in healthcare, but you're not sure where to start. I'm Leigha, your host of this podcast, and I'm bringing you the inside scoop on healthcare professions. From doctors to PAs to healthcare administrators and CRNAs, my goal is to let professionals tell their stories and give honest reviews of the careers they have chosen. So whether you're considering a job in healthcare or you simply have an interest in what we do, this show is for you. This is part 2 of the OR Etiquette 101 episode with Heather and I. Hopefully you guys already listened to part 1. If you haven't, please go back and listen because there's so much good information in this episode that we had to split it up into 2 episodes. So again, thanks for listening and I hope you enjoy. I started passing out or syncopizing, I don't even think that's a word, when I was like 3 or 4.
Oh, wow.
Never got like a real diagnosis. The doctors did all these tests, like neuro, cardiology, everything. I spent weeks in and out of the hospital trying to figure it out. And they basically were like, she should drink more orange juice. Like that's what they said, right? So then it didn't happen for a while until I was probably like in high school. And then it started happening when I started shadowing those first cases in the OR. So I was like on my feet. I was probably dehydrated. I was nervous. I think a lot of it is mental.
And if you didn't eat.
Yeah. And so I passed out multiple times while shadowing and when I was in PA school. I got really good at catching it. So the first time it happened, I like fell down on the floor, but I kind of almost caught myself because I knew it was happening. Then I was like, all right, well, I can't let this happen in the OR. Luckily, I was not in the OR at that point. So what I started doing, and you guys can do this if you're feeling faint, and you should, is say, hey, I don't feel great. I'm not sure how I'm going to handle this procedure. Can I have a stool? Can you put a stool behind me just in case? Obviously, you're not going to sit down during the procedure unless you're told to, but like just knowing that stool is there as like insurance or backup like has helped me so much. I still ask for it. Like there's still times where I randomly feel like, shit, I might pass out today. And I'll just ask for the stool, and just having it is great. I did have to use it once or twice, and it helped me not fall onto the sterile field and not fall on my back. But also the point of me telling you this is like I work primarily in surgery, in joints, which is one of the most brutal, grotesque surgeries you can see.
It's wood shop.
It's basically wood shop on a body. And I've made it work. Like it's natural to feel this way, especially in the beginning. And then, make sure you have a meal. If you know you get like lightheaded, like have a meal, have water or juice or whatever it is. Like,
even just a few crackers, anything.
Right. Don't go in there on an empty stomach. Don't lock your knees. Because if you're like tensing up and locking your knees, and you can like, I don't know, they say like cut off the blood supply, whatever. I don't know if it's true, but yeah, I'll do calf pumps like as I'm in the OR if I'm feeling lightheaded.
One time I almost overheated and fainted in the OR. This was during my surgical residency program.
Oh no.
I was rounding and I was running so late, and this was a massive hospital. So I ran to the OR, and it was so hot in there to begin with. And normally ORs are cold. So I scrubbed in, and then I'm just drenched in sweat. And then it finally got to a point where my mask was stuck to my face. It was so bad. And I thought I was about to go down. And then all of a sudden it just gave me the chills somehow. And I just came back from it. I snapped out of it. But that was like one time I almost passed out in the OR.
Yeah.
Everyone else was fine because no one ran there.
Yeah. And if you do feel something coming on like that, like step back from the field, please. Because if you fall into the field, meaning like on the patient, like you're going to contaminate them. Probably it's not going to be a good look. Whenever I've passed out or almost passed out, everyone, no matter where I was so helpful. So just know it happens and get right back in there as soon as you can and get yourself a little desensitized to it. I have a funny story about this. So you probably know her. Okay, so not going to name names, but somebody from our hospital, because we used to work in the same hospital. She was a very tall, strong woman. And she doesn't work there anymore, but she was an amazing tech, second assist. So I'm standing next to the surgeon. She's on the other side of the table. No, sorry. I'm standing next to her. We were both on the other side of the table for some reason. I'm not sure why. And it's like the middle of the case, and I start I like look at her and she looks at me and she's like a seasoned tech. Like she's been there for years. And she's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And I didn't, normally I can catch myself and like sit down before I pass out, but like this came on super fast. She literally grabbed me by my wrist and held my hand up in the air and like I passed out. And this woman held me up by my wrist with one hand. She had like one hand on a retractor and the other hand was on my wrist, like holding my whole body up.
Oh my goodness.
And then I kind of like came to and kind of just like leaned against the bed. All sterile, obviously. And then somebody like helped me. But it was insane. I was like, oh, I knew she was strong, but like I didn't know she was that strong. And she like, this is why the techs are your best friends, because like if you are good to them, they will be so good to you.
Oh, absolutely. And they're going to help you through the surgery. They are full of so much knowledge.
They taught me more about the OR than any surgeon or other PA or anybody, really. They know the ins and outs of everything. They do this every single day. A lot of them have been doing it for years. Listen to the tech. If you have questions, ask them. Now, on that subject, don't touch the Mayo stand.
Never.
Unless you ask them if you can. They seem like a cool back table tech. But many techs do not want you touching their Mayo stand, which is the stand where all the tools are on, because they have it set up in a certain way and they like to keep it nice and organized, which helps the surgery flow better. If you need to put something down, just either wait or like hold it up to hand it to them and they will usually grab it from you. If they don't care if you touch their Mayo stand, usually they'll tell you, or like I said, you can ask. But yeah, that's a quick way to die.
Absolutely. I don't think I ever once touched it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not my place.
Yeah. I mean, I will with like people I work with every day because I know they don't care.
I would put a tool on it.
Yeah.
But who am I to rearrange it?
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
no, don't rearrange it.
No.
Definitely not. Well, Heather just said make sure like your hair is in like fully in the hair net. But somebody's usually going to tell you if it's not.
How to sneeze in the OR. Like, what do you do when the sneeze is coming on?
Yeah.
So
Tell us.
if I'm remembering correctly, you're supposed to just sneeze normally facing the patient.
Yes.
You don't want to then turn sideways because then the air that comes out of you is going to come out of the side of the mask.
Right. So you basically just stay facing the patient, maybe take a step back or two and just sneeze. It is disgusting. Your mask will be gross for the rest of the case. It's the worst thing that can happen during the case, but you just have to go with it. You can't do anything about it.
And if your nose is running,
Oh,
you leave it and you let it drip and let it collect on your chin into the mask. And when the case is over, you can get a new mask.
it's so gross.
These are the really fun parts. And if you have to pee, you hold it. And if it's an emergency, you say something.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that happens. You have to be excused.
Right. Yeah. I've had to excuse myself probably just once or twice, but I have.
It happens.
You don't need to be peeing yourself in the OR. Don't worry. You can go to the bathroom. It's fine.
And it's not just the assistants or the PAs, RNs that have to be excused sometimes.
Correct.
So it happens to anybody.
Yes.
Remember, we are human too. Yeah. And some of these cases are super long. And even though you went to the bathroom right before,
You're still going to have to do it.
doesn't mean 8 hours later you can still hold it.
Right. We don't need to be getting UTIs on our rotations. That's for sure.
Just speak up.
Yeah. But like you have to really have to go though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen a surgeon excuse themselves.
Me too. A few times.
It happens. And then 2 minutes later, you resume and they re-scrub in.
Yeah, exactly. As a student, please don't sit down on your phone while everybody else is working. Like, I've seen this multiple times in the last couple of years where there will be a student in the room. They think that they're not needed, or maybe you just don't care, and that's fine. But like, at least act like you're interested. Like, I've had a couple of students just go find a stool, sit down, and they're on their phones while we're all setting up the case. Like, as a PA at least, and as a resident, you guys are going to need to know how to set up the cases because you're going to be the only ones doing it in many hospitals. So like, please pay attention to how we're setting up the case. And what I mean by that is like how we're positioning the patient on the bed. If we're putting a post on the side, a bump, how the bed works. Like, you need to know all this, because in a few months, likely, or maybe in a year or two, you're going to be the only one in charge of this. And if you mess that up and the surgeon comes in and they're like, what the hell? Like, that's on you. So please just like pay attention. Even if you hate the rotation and you're like, I'm never going into surgery, like, you still want that decent evaluation from your preceptor. And trust me, like, we will be honest. Like, I am honest.
I think a lot of students forget that you will be evaluated.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of your rotation, your director is going to want to know how you did and if we would recommend hiring you even at that hospital.
Right.
So make your time useful, but also, you know, you want to watch the setup. That's how you learn. Just because you're not doing the setup doesn't mean you can't get anything out of it. It's like see one, do one, teach one.
Yeah.
You need to see it first.
Yeah. And then I guess the last point I'd like to drive home is what you said earlier. Like, know when to ask a question, like, read the room. If the surgeon seems frustrated, like, that is not the time to ask him a question or her a question.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. Just silence is what they need in that moment. But you have to like be aware of that. Like, just look and see what's going on. And then the anticipation stuff with like anticipating the next steps in the surgery, that comes with practice. But there are little things you can pick up on. Like, I guess my little tip would be, if somebody picks up a pickup or also known as like a Bonnie or anything where they're holding like tissue or skin, they're probably gonna use the Bovie next. So have the Bovie ready. And if they don't use it, fine. But if you have it ready, they're gonna be like so impressed.
And if you see they're about to use the Bovie, grab the suction.
Exactly.
Anticipation.
One step ahead. Adjust the lights. Don't be afraid to adjust the lights. You might have somebody scream at you for adjusting the light like I did, but I think that man was I think he was just disturbed. I had a surgeon like scream at me for moving the light, say I was distracting him, but he was literally like operating in the dark. Like, the light was nowhere on the patient. I was just trying to help. But so it's okay to touch the lights and move the lights as long as you're doing it sterilely.
Yeah, and most surgeons will appreciate that because they realize we do need light to see. So that was probably just someone that was just grumpy. And
it's the only other thing. Usually the patient will have some sort of imaging, meaning x-rays, CT scan, MRI. Those should be up on the computer that's in the room. So something you can maybe do ahead of time if you're waiting for your preceptor, like me, who usually shows up like a few minutes late. If you're waiting for me, just put up the x-rays and get to know everybody, and I will be there soon.
And just to summarize, if you don't know the answer, ask. It's okay. And that goes even outside of the OR. There's someone that will know the answer, and that's the most important thing, is that you ask and you find the answer that way. No one's going to get mad at you.
We have a squeaky toy in the background. It's okay.
My dog is running around having a great time. But no one's going to get mad at you if you don't know the answer. They'll get mad if you make something up, because the most important thing is that the patient doesn't get hurt. So ask, and they're going to be proud of you for asking, because that's going to show.
Adele! Remember, the patient on that table is a person, and it is their life that is in everybody's hands in a way. And it's okay to be helpful, and it's okay to take initiative, but it's a fine line. Like, you really do have to have that awareness and read the room. And if you're not sure, don't do it. I've had students who, on both ends of the spectrum, right? Like, some just stand there and don't even contribute at all to the surgery. And it's probably because they are afraid that they're going to do too much. Then there's the other kind of student who's doing too much. And you're like, whoa. I will give you the tool that you need if I'm asking you to use it. Or the surgeon will place your hand on a retractor or give you a tool if they want you to use it. I wouldn't suggest just like going all in to like, it's okay to show that you're eager. It's okay to pick up the suction, but watch your preceptor's lead. Take the lead of the surgeon. They will usually tell you where to put your hands, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like some of the things that we were saying, like for anticipation, that's typically more if you've been there, you've done some cases with them, you're a hired PA or, medical assistant, They hired you, they know you work with them, and it's more routine. As a student, it's totally okay to just stand there and watch if you're out of the way. And like you said, if they want you to retract, they're going to put the retractor in for you and tell you to then grab it, and you just hold it and you don't move.
Right.
And
don't move. Hold it exactly where they put it for you.
Yeah. And that's part of being a student. You just watch, you take direction, you're there to learn. You're not there to do the procedure. I mean, they might ask you some questions that might pimp you.
Mm-hmm.
Which means just asking you questions about the procedure. So it's a good idea. Look up the procedure that you're going into.
Yes.
Know a little bit about it.
Do your homework. It is so impressive when I have a student who's like, I'm like teaching them, I'm starting to tell them like what we're about to do there. And they're like, oh yeah, I know. I did the workup. And also I saw that you're using this system and I looked the system up and I saw that it's made of this or whatever it is. Like I'm talking ortho talk here, but it kind of goes for any surgery. Like, and know your anatomy because surgeons love to pimp on anatomy. Mm-hmm. So if you know you're going in a knee replacement or a hip replacement or like a laparoscopy or whatever it is, like just go over that anatomy for a few minutes before you walk into the OR because you'll feel more confident. And then also practice your tying and your sewing before you get to the OR. Please, there is no excuse for coming to the OR and not knowing how to tie a knot.
Oh, because they might ask you to tie, meaning they're doing this for you, not for them, to give you some time to practice. And it's super embarrassing when you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Because you should have been practicing.
There's really no excuse. Like I said, you can get these materials on Amazon, buy a Vicryl sutures, buy nylon sutures if your school doesn't provide them. You can buy a suture pad on Amazon for like $7 and practice your suturing. Like just do it in your downtime consistently. Get a needle driver if you can, or like a hemostat, and just like practice using it with your like both hands or whatever it is. Like really, there's no excuse to come to the OR, especially on a rotation where you know there's like you're going to be hands-on like ortho and not know how to tie or like hold the Adson.
So 2 recommendations that I have. So for learning to tie, even if you can't get a hold of a suture material for any reason, any string, it doesn't even matter, a shoelace or whatever, what I would recommend doing, and this is what I did. So for your scrub bottoms that you tie, so they stay up, you then can tie any string to it and like literally just walk around practicing. Like you can just be walking and you're just tying. It's the repetition that really solidifies the knowledge of it and you get faster. And no one's going to care if you're slow in the beginning. Mm-hmm. They just want to know that you're trying and you're trying to learn. But all those other materials, yeah, like for practicing suturing, that really helps.
I always tell people, get your hands on a needle driver and put it in your pocket, your white coat, because there's so many times on rotation where you're just like following people around and not doing much. And in your pocket, just practice opening and closing it. In our hospital or Heather's old hospital, we don't put our fingers in the holes. This is like this could be a whole other podcast. We actually just palm it. So that's a very hard skill to learn, but it's just about repetition. So I always tell my students, like, put it in your pocket and just do it all day long.
It seems hard at first. And the moment you get it and you practice, it is so fast. Yeah. You save an incredible amount of time.
Yeah.
So you'll see it's such a waste of time to put your fingers in the holes.
It really is. You shouldn't have to. They shouldn't even have holes.
And then you just get so fast at everything, at suturing. And also, you want to do things in a timely manner safely as well. But if you take forever to suture and close a patient, if you do have the opportunity to close, and depending on where you work, you typically do, you want to limit the amount of anesthesia time. So practice your craft.
Yeah. I think this is like probably one of the most important episodes we've done, if not the most important, because it's crazy to me that schools aren't doing a better job of preparing people. So hopefully this episode, you can listen to it before your surgical rotations and get a little refresher. If we missed anything, please write to us and let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you have any questions or any things that you want us to chat about.
Yeah, we can always do a follow-up episode or we can answer your questions on social media, but always just reach out to us. We're always thinking of new ideas for episodes that can help you guys. That's what this podcast is about. So definitely reach out if you have any questions or any just advice for maybe what we should talk about, things that you think you're not getting full education on in school or in your rotations.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Please leave us a 5-star review if you haven't already. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
This is the So You Want to Work in Healthcare podcast with new episodes every month. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest releases.